All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Gabe and Heck, the challenge part 3. In this episode, the crew is talking about the challenge and they are taking you on their journey. We cover topics that range from habit creation, making adjustments, motivation, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Henry B. Eyring and Martin Luther King Jr. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off. All right, so here we are, part 3. We are 2 weeks in.
Yes. 2 weeks in.
Yes, 2 weeks in. We're starting week 3.
Yep.
And
today's officially day 14, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is? Today's officially day 14. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So last week. So if you're new, we have started a challenge. Obviously 2 weeks ago now, because this is part 3. We're about to jump into week 3. And it's a very basic 4-week challenge. We want to start very small, something foundational, something that everyone can get on board with, basically anyone can do. And we started off with the 7 points of the challenge, which 1 is chug at least 1 bottle of water upon waking up. 2, stretch or work out for 20 minutes a day, ideally cardio. 3, pray/meditate for 10 minutes. 4, study/read for 10 minutes. 5, review/recite affirmations for 3 minutes. 6, write 1 thing you're grateful for. And 7, intermittent fast for 1 meal, ideally breakfast, but obviously the guys can pick whatever works for that, whatever works best for them. We had a layout, like a form that I put together that broke down all 4 weeks. So we have like a little printout that we're tracking our progress. And so we're basically, I guess, like reuniting on a weekly basis to share our progress, where we are with things, and then also maybe some items that we may and may not want to add. I know one of the first things that I did immediately, which I didn't bring up in the previous 2 episodes, but now that I'm looking at my my form here, my progress form, is I never put the days, so, or like the actual day of the week. So I have like day 1, 2, 3 all the way through whatever, but I didn't put what day, which is actually helpful. So at the top, so whenever we start these or do it again, obviously at the top I want to write what actual day it is, or leave that open so that if folks want to do this on their own, they can basically write in the day that they're actually starting, right? So if they start, right. Their day 1 might be a Thursday, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, that was one thing that I just, right off the rip, I forgot to mention for the last 2 times. We're going to go into other things we can add later in the episode, but let's do Around the Horn. Gabe, we'll start with you. What are your 14-day results thus far?
So I've been keeping up with it. I'm trying to like be better with, like, I guess, consistent time wise, I guess, whatever, if that makes sense. Because it seems like a little bit all over the place, especially like, I mean, when the early part stuff, it seems to be easy to kind of like, I can kind of like map that out a little easier. It seemed like the later night, because I think last time you asked like, oh, did anything come up randomly? It was like, I feel like there was like something like after work, like I think it was like Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday or something, was like I had to go immediately out, and it was unfortunate, like a bunch of errands and stuff too that I didn't get back later. And it was like, that was the one day that I don't think I did the exercise part of it. It's just because it was like much later than anticipated. And I was like, but it was like one of those things where like I wish I just did a little something at least to kind of like end cap the day, whatever. It was like, but it was like that was the only one but I still, did everything else. It was just a matter of like that was like the one day that kind of like got a little jacked up in terms of that. But I was like, I don't know what other really time of day, unless I get up like mad early in the morning to like do like kind of like a exercise workout thing, because there isn't really, unfortunately, a part like at work to do something like that. Unless I just walk around the Broad Street, which may not be the best idea sometimes either. But
sure.
But yeah, so that was the only time like it was kind of like a little weird snafu in terms of like the in terms of like the last couple weeks. But everything else I'm kind of keep up with, like I said, I can kind of like during lunchtime I can kind of like we've gone through like going through the what's it called, the affirmations and stuff like that too. So it was like, and reading my the books and stuff like that. So it was like it was easy to keep up with that. Just the being active was the only thing got a little messed up. So
yeah, so it's interesting because as you as we were talking last week, I was talking about how to improve what we're doing here, and I think there's another thing to look into when you just said that, because that actually happened to me when my day got away from me. I got distracted, and there's one day last week where I didn't do my 20 minutes of either stretching or exercising. Ironically, though, I laughed at the 20 minutes of stretching, and I actually find that to be the most beneficial part of this of it all. And what I was doing, and I'll get back to the point I was trying to make about you missing a day, because I missed one day of working out as well. In the morning when I wake up, right, I have to brush my teeth like immediately.
Yeah.
So whatever. So I wash up. Depending on what I do, if I know I'm going to work out, I don't necessarily take a shower right away, because obviously I want to take a shower afterwards.
Sure.
So I either wash up, whatever, do my thing there, chug a bottle of water, and then I put on either something on my phone that's like positive or motivational or something like that, or we have obviously I'm a believer and I'm a Christian, so we have like the Christian channel, and it's like basically a preacher preaching. So I'll have that on, and I'll just sit there and stretch for 10 minutes. So I knocked out my 10 minutes. And then all I have to do is like, all right, I got to think about another 10 more minutes where I can do. Obviously, this is all beginning stage, right? So if you work out regularly, 10, 20 minutes is nothing for you, right? You can crush that. But for people that are just starting out, to that point that I want to make about you is I thought about this as well, because I have a desk job.
Yeah.
And I think a good thing to come up with is small little techniques like that, like just do 10 minutes of stretching or 5-minute stretches just to build your momentum through the day, so that you're not left with a hanging 20 minutes. Obviously, working 20 straight minutes is awesome, but if you already know you have 5 minutes in the bag or 10 minutes in the bag of stretching, or whatever, just like jogging in place or something, coming up with small exercises that you can do in the office, while still doing your work or whatever, or in between, really quick breaks. But stretching is one of them. Like some people are like, oh, well, I'm fully dressed, but you could and I wear a suit, jacket and whatever, like a sports jacket, I should say, sports jacket and like khakis or whatever every day, and a shirt and tie. But I can stretch. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
By the time I'm done, all I'm doing is retucking my shirt in, probably at most, right? But you can stretch, and I can do that a lot of times. You can do that on calls. So when while you're on a call, you could be doing that, or turn your camera off on a call for 5 minutes. Like if you just, what I'm saying? there's the point I'm trying to make is how can we, when I've asked the last couple of weeks how we can make this better, that is one of them. Maybe coming up with small 5-minute drills almost to just insert here when it's like, dude, I know my day is all jammed up. How can I? And that's just almost like removing the excuse, so to speak, right? Gabe, because I did the same thing, dude. Like the exact same thing happened to me. No one's that busy, but you allow the day to just run away from you.
Sure, absolutely. And it's funny, it's like and it's funny that we've talked about like breaking up everything. It's like that's the only one like in my head didn't picture like you could definitely break that up into like multiple parts. Yeah, like you said, 5 minutes here and there or whatever. Not thinking like, oh, when you're active, that should be like, oh, excuse me, that should be a consistently like, oh yeah, you work out for quote unquote 10 minutes or whatever it is. Not thinking about like, oh yeah, you can do like little 5-minute things here and there that it all adds up to the same thing.
At the end of the day, you can just run to your car from work.
Exactly.
Just run to the car.
What I noticed is like what you think your exercise. What I noticed is like when you're actually keeping track of the stuff, that's what I'm saying. We're not. I remember in the beginning when we started like, oh yeah, I do half this. I already do 90%. But when you start tracking it, you start to realize you're not
different.
really doing it every single day.
Yeah.
You're not. And I know you're
You think
not.
you are.
You
Yeah.
think you
No,
are.
you think you are. Yeah.
But once you start
Absolutely.
actually documenting and tracking it, and the same thing goes with, running to my car, that takes like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Guarantee if you ran to your car, it's like 45 seconds.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so you did not clock in your
Yeah.
time. And that's
No,
what I mean. That's
100%.
the loose stuff that we allow
Yeah.
ourselves to get away with on a regular basis. But once it gets tracked or you're held accountable to something, I think that's when it all changes. The other thing that I was thinking about that would add to it is, obviously we made like a pact to ourselves, but I think in the beginning, if you make a promise, like you actually write and sign, like maybe at the bottom of the form, that you will complete this on such and such date, and almost, so it's basically you're writing out and signing your goals, but you're writing it, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that would be like a cool element. So outside of missing like a workout or two or whatever it was there anything else that you're looking to do moving forward or changing?
Nothing crazy, because I mean, like, because what I've been doing, especially the weekends, like I'll do that a lot of stuff early, because like obviously you have more time on the weekend stuff too. So like I'll do my work and stuff, or like whatever activity stuff, almost like first thing in the morning, as opposed to like during the week I try to like it's more towards the end of the day. So it's like I've been at least consistent with that part of it, like at least for the most part, like I said, unless like the one last day, but everything else, I kind of start the day with that, and everything else is I kind of keep a similar schedule, but I kind of like push it out throughout the day, as opposed to like the first thing is obviously the water, which is that's obviously nonstop. I mean, that's first thing anyway, but yeah, the weekends is just I change it to get active first thing in the morning, and everything else kind of like I space it out throughout the day.
Yeah.
Heck,
what about you? How were your first 14 days?
I noticed so the fasting works out, of course, and now it's more of a mental thing. Like I said when I was on the first episode, I said that I was fasting for breakfast, and that's when I got most hungry. And I knew that I didn't eat breakfast for the most part, but that's when I started getting hungry. So now I'm kind of beyond that stage. So now I notice that when I do eat lunch around 11:30, 12 o'clock, I eat a small portion of lunch and I'm full for whatever reason. So it's not like, so I see that it's helping out doing the fasting in the morning or whatever. And I'll have my lunch and I'll get like a sandwich or bring something with me, and I won't eat the whole thing. I eat half of it. And then later on, either I'll eat it or just toss it or do whatever. But I'm like, my eating habits have changed, and I haven't weighed myself since the first day. So I'm kind of curious to see what it actually has done for me. So that's that. And as far like I get up in the morning, I drink the water like every morning. I guess everyone, I don't know. To me, that's pretty normal, drinking water. So as I'm drinking the water, I'm like trying to get the coffee pot ready to make coffee, and I'm like walking through the house with a freaking bottle of water in my mouth and turning TV on and finding clothes, or not finding clothes, like getting my clothes together or whatever. So the water is easy. The reading, I kind of challenge myself, because I do read throughout the day, but it's for work, and I don't want to count that towards the goal. But there's just times where it's just like I didn't get that chance to read any knowledgeable material or something to self-reflect myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the reading part kind of got me a little off. But every morning, like I said, I pray every morning. I'll get a chance and I'll try and pray like at lunchtime or whatever, and just get that done. As far as exercise goes, like the walking in the mornings, it's still continuous for the most part. When I'm in the office, I'll do at 9 o'clock. I'll get off and I'll go take a walk. And for the most part, I'm on the phone with my wife, because she's driving. She's taking the kids to school and going to work. So I'll take literally like a 15-minute lap around the two buildings at my job. So the exercise part is pretty much, and then when I'm working from home, I do stretching. I stretch a lot, and I'll just sit in one room, Phoenix to come join me or whatever, and I'll just do my stretching that way when I'm working from home, because I have 15-minute breaks, but I can't like just now I have to take Phoenix with me. So it makes it a little more complex, because he's like in the middle doing whatever he wants to be doing and stuff. So I kind of just leave it for stretching at that point when I'm working from home. And it's 2 days that I work from home. But I mean, I noticed that I feel good about myself. Like I didn't realize like how many things I'm actually thankful for. Because every day I'm like, I gotta write something different every single day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like the little things. Like I'm thankful for my brothers. Like who the heck's that's not in your thought process, right? The main things like I'm thankful for my family. And then when you break it down, you're like, all right, your family, that's your intermediate, like the intermediate family, like your wife, son, kids, whatever, wife, daughters. But then you're like, I'm thankful for my brothers because they've been there through a lot with me and stuff like that. Like I'm thankful that I have that back support. The friends that I have, like Gabe, you're always there, like call you or whatever, and you're like you're right on point with everything. So it's like it's knowing what you actually have and realizing it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because there's a lot that you realize. The affirmations, I literally will sit down and read because you gave us a list of affirmations, and I will read them from top to bottom every single day. I'm not cutting it in half. I'm reading all of them. I'm like, that's what it's probably like 4 to 5 minutes to read them all. Not even, probably less than that. But it's still long.
It's not because I timed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
also depends on how fast you're reading and whatever.
How fast you're reading.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're just saying I am blessed, and then you sit there and think about being blessed, then it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
But if you're like speed reading through it, it's going to take you about 2.5, 3 minutes because it's literally over 100 affirmations.
Yeah, and I'm not speed reading it. Like I'm reading it like I'm meaning it. So I read it like with like feeling it. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying, oh, I am proud, I am happy, I'm successful. I'm reading it as like I'm meaning it. So to kind of give it like that. And then even like just even on the way to work, I have XM radio. So I just put on like one of the Christian channels, and there's preachers in the morning. The girls were like, Dad, what are you listening to, Dad? And I'm like, it's one morning it's like Joel Osteen, and I'll just listen to him or just listen to something. And instead of like junk radio, that's what I listen to in the mornings. And then in the afternoons, I'm like, all right, let's get the day started. Let's give me something positive to start my day and think about things and reflect on. You know what I mean? So, but I think it's working. I think it's helping me out actually.
Nice. Yeah. So for me, I think this week was a lot easier than the first week. 2 things. You're not going to believe it, but I missed 1 day of affirmations. And then the other thing was, I switched. So I switched to fasting. So there was some mornings where I was like, oh man, I want to switch this up because a couple things like, I'm very involved at work, and like one of the mornings, like last Friday was Veterans Day, and we had a Veterans Day breakfast, and to just like not eat like with them, and because I'm doing something, so I switched it. So I partook in that, and because there's nothing worse than someone. It's like, how do you know someone's dieting? Oh, well, because they tell you 50 times a day that they're dieting, right?
Right.
And it's just like, it's like, oh my goodness. And so I think part of that, having that hang loose thought process. So I passed on lunch that day. But the breakfast was nice enough, that it took me straight to dinner anyway. Right? I wasn't even, what I mean?
Yeah.
So I made 2, that happened twice, where there was something going on at work where it was like a breakfast or something. And it was like something I helped put together. It wasn't like, they give out free breakfast every morning.
You kind of got to partake in that, right? Like, it's like you can't.
And there's still a discipline thing there. Like, you don't have to like, eat like a total savage, you know what I'm saying? Or you can make better choices. There's fruits and stuff that you can be eating.
Sure.
It's just, it's all I guess personal preference. But I think the thing that what's awesome about challenging yourself about fasting is earlier this year I fasted. This is not a groundbreaker or anything, but I fasted for 3 days. So when I think about and just had literally water. When you fast for like a more than 24 hours, I should say, it's way easier to mentally go through those drills when you're just skipping a meal. You know what I'm saying? You're like, dude,
Yeah.
I fasted for 3 days, 3 straight days. Again, I'm not saying that to whatever. I know but for me, that was a lot at the time. For me, that's still a lot. And maybe one day I'll get to, a week straight. I don't know, whatever. But that was, I did what I wanted to do. I went to cleanse my body earlier this year. So I went through a 3-day fast. But me missing a breakfast, like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. It's awesome to tap into that because it's very useful to say, all right, I fasted for 3 days. I know I can get through this. This is just like a little mental block or whatever. So that also prepared me, which I didn't necessarily think that I had the ability or I was going to even tap into that. And there was one other thing that I was thinking of. I don't know, but I think one of the biggest things is actually keeping track because I think a lot of people BS themselves saying that they do X, Y, and Z. It was to my point I said earlier. I think if you're not tracking, I think you're lying. I think if you are tracking, it's just like there's a truth there because it's just staring at you. Like I know exactly what days I missed. Because I'm actually tracking, and that's what I'm saying. So if you're actually tracking, I'm like 900% like confident. That's the most exaggerated number too. I'm pretty confident that there's days you missed.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because I did it both ways. I've done it not tracking at all and just like, oh, let me go back and see how many days. And then before you know it, you didn't track it for 4 days. And then there's times where it's like, because I'm tracking it, I was like, oh yeah, I still got to do my affirmations. And so when it's constantly in front of you, I think the human mind likes to, and sometimes we give ourselves more credit than we deserve. And like, oh, I'll get to it, or I'll do it. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's like, I think that's the realization, or that's the point of these challenges.
Yeah.
That is part of the challenge, is tracking it, right? I think just to say like, oh yeah, I ran through that. That was simple. And I'm telling you, if you actually track these things, if you actually wrote down what you're grateful for, right? I have health, family, team, friends, sports, golf. That was when I was that 1 week. My sons, faith, heart, lungs, my job, podcast, the bless lifestyle brand, and my mind, like a sane mind, right? Or at least for the most part, sane mind. So I think if I told myself, I don't think if I didn't write those down, there's no way in the world I would have been able to rip those off to the top of my head, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're written down, I can literally tell you every single day what I had, what I was thankful for. I even have here the days I did lunch instead of breakfast, skip meal. So if it's breakfast, I write AM, whatever. But then you'll see the 3 days I wrote lunch. And like, again, that was just stuff that was going on at work. And then the other one was Saturday, I guess it was. So I went back-to-back days. I think it was like Friday and Saturday. Friday was Veterans Breakfast. And then Saturday I woke up and I was going to go straight for lunch or whatever. Well, I woke up to cut the grass, like, do yard work or whatever. When I came in, my wife had made breakfast. And it was just like, oh man, I got to eat breakfast.
You can't turn that off.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's those adjustments that you have to be flexible with. But it's not just fast. It's with everything. And that's the point I've been trying to preach basically this whole time is when you do these things, people think that it has to be so perfect. Like, you have to hit every single one of these every day, but it doesn't have to be in such a perfect order. The one main one is chugging, a bottle of water and once upon waking. That's like the only one that like really has. Now there's benefits from putting a bunch of these together, right? Yeah. And so like if you're stretching or like, if you're stretching in the morning and like I said, watching something, like a preacher or something like that, something positive, you're really knocking a bunch of stuff out. And you're also setting your mindset for real, right? For that day. And then if you sit back and, shower up, whatever, and sit at the, the dinner table or whatever, and drink your cup of coffee, even if it's for a couple sips, and you run through those affirmations, you're only pausing for about 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But the benefit is you already stretched, you already listened to something positive, and now you're going through your affirmations and you chugged, a bunch of water. You're setting yourself up for success. So yes, there are items on here out of the 7 that you can kind of bunch up to basically launch yourself into a better day, I should say. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. You can break it up because there's going to be disruptive days. But I still think people think, oh, I had a disruptive day, and then they just throw in the towel. I think the job is to twist up your mindset of just a little bit and still go through the motions of all 7 items. It's just going to be way different. And I think if you can get over that little hurdle, I'm telling you, that is like, and I'm not saying it to, Heck and Gabe, I'm just saying this to anyone listening. For whatever reason, I said this back in the day too, we get so hell-bent on doing it so perfectly that you end up stopping because it becomes like distasteful almost, because you're mad at yourself because you didn't do it so perfect. You set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. But like you said, it's only 7. We started this out with only 7, where a lot of people always try to go overkill and try to do 10 to 15. 7, you have 7 things to check off throughout the day. And if you really think about it, they're not intense. That there's plenty of time. You just have to make the time for it. Like Jimmy said, it's not that you're out of time or time's run out or you don't have any time. You need to make the time for it to make it happen, because there are times where you're just like walking around and you're just like, oh, let me go on Amazon real quick.
Exactly.
Right? Let me go on Amazon. All right, so instead of going to Amazon, let me go read my affirmations. Or instead of going to Amazon, let me go think about what I'm thankful for. Or instead of spending 5 minutes on Amazon, let me go 5 minutes meditate or pray or do, you know what I mean? Like, you can take the time out. Like there are certain things that are not that important in your life that you make it a ritual thing. And it's like, all right, you can switch things up and make it happen. Again, it's only 7 different things. It's not that intense, and it's not asking you for like Jimmy said in the beginning of this whole thing. If we're not asking for your firstborn, we're not asking for money, you're not asking for nothing. You just ask for these simple for yourself, to only better yourself. It's not to better anyone else. And like Jim said, if you're not marketing it, you're cheating yourself and you're lying to yourself, and then you make yourself look good, but in reality, you don't look good and you don't feel good because you cheated on something that was so simple.
Exactly. You're just lying to yourself at that point, and you're gonna make yourself
you're lying
worse
to
in the back end.
Yeah, you're like, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I could have done this and I wasted my time. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like on the real, like my Saturdays, this past Saturday was hectic, but I did out of the 7, I did 5 out of the 7 on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, and I keep track of that. I know what it was that I did and didn't do, but I'm not saying, I did everything, knowing that I dang well didn't do everything. Yeah. So just be true to yourself when you're doing this, and be real about it if you're going to do it, and stay committed to it. Because again, start small. You don't want to go crazy with it. Start small.
I think one of the things I would add, and another thing that I would add, is I was really trying to dive deep into psychology or whatever the excuses or the BS we tell ourselves as to why we can't do something, right? And I was thinking another trigger would be almost, and I don't know if it would be daily. I haven't made my mind up yet, but receiving like a motivational quote or a text message from someone else who's going through it is also like triggers, almost like a reminder. So that day you may not slip. And I'm not saying it has to be daily, but maybe every other day. So basically more like the frequency of the check-ins to be shorter, or at least in the beginning anyway. Because I think for someone who is just getting started and doesn't have the total mental power, willpower to get through the first 2 weeks, once a week is kind of a long space, because if you miss the first 2 days, you're going to be like, once again, you're going to throw it in the tail. But if you miss the first 2 days and then you have to check in, or at least like say hi or shoot a text, you're like, all right, you know what? I missed first 2 days, but let me get back on the ball. Let me get, you know what I'm saying? So so you have like those mini resets along the way. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's fair. It keeps everyone on their toes. and help you not to forget, or help you to remind yourself to make that checklist. I think it's fair.
No, and I agree with that. Sometimes like I think for us it was okay, like doing like the initial startup was like you said, I was like sometimes like it's the first couple of days, sometimes that is you need that kind of kickstart to kind of like get it going. Then like yeah, you said like the shorter check-in times, it makes more sense because you really have to keep yourself accountable if you're somebody's checking in with you within the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And like oh, what did you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything, but
Yeah.
but so at least I mean, I think for us it was okay, but like I think that would make sense for like if you have a little more hesitancy in starting stuff like that, or just you need a little more of a start. Like it would make sense
push.
to have more somebody you're gonna like talk to more frequently. If that makes
I think like a midweek check-in would probably be like ideal, like Wednesday, like, hey, yo, where you at? What do you got going on so far? You had Saturday, you had Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. What's going on? What's going on? You got it or you don't got it, right? I mean, I think that's like the hump days like that would be a good day to do a check-in or follow-up. I don't think there's anything.
Another part of like the accountability part, I do think if you can get your significant other, your spouse on board as well, I think that's an additional push, or maybe a kid, one of your children, or somebody that's around your roommate, whatever, to also do it. Because it's not that, hectic. Because I know last week or the first week, Goose is saying, his wife was gonna, was thinking about doing it, and I kind of got excited because I wanted to see how that was gonna work. But I think last week he reported that she didn't. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, dang, maybe I should have probably did this with like my wife. I probably should have just shared, because it's not nothing over the top. And what's funny is she's like texting me today saying that she did some workout or whatever and tried something new, and she's like, holy smokes, I'm totally out of shape, blah blah blah. But I'm just thinking, I'm like, that would have been dope. I should have, that's something to be mindful of for the next time. But I still have two more weeks to finish off, so maybe I'll just share it with her to see if she wants to, jump in on it. But I think that's another aspect. And this whole thing is not to. It sounds like a lot, but once you get the ball rolling, when you're adding all these little things, like I said, those have like 3 5-minute drills written down for 3 things you can do that will, check off the workout or stretch thing. Having an accountability partner on a regular basis, like your spouse, significant other, roommate, whatever. These are things that are going to help you stay on track. It's not to add another level of difficulty. Like if it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. If you could just do it all on your own, whatever, that's awesome. We're trying to come up with various ways on how people can accomplish this. Because I believe if you lock in this very small foundational thing, I think you're setting yourself up to then build on it, and then you build your quote house, or you build your actual lifestyle. This is the foundation of a lifestyle, right? This is not, like I said, I know people who work out for 2.5 hours every single day, right? I know people who pray for 2.5 hours every single day. I know people who drink more than a gallon of water every single day, right? And so it's like, and I know people who write like gratitude logs and almost like have gratitude journals. So you always have the extreme. So I'm not trying to also, on the same token, not trying to hold anyone back. If you are ready to rock and roll and do way more than this, this is just a beginner stage. And I think the other thing is to probably have to improve the program is to probably have 3 different like starting levels. So someone who's already regularly works out, right? Maybe boost them up to 45 minutes a day, right? Or whatever, a half hour.
Right.
And so you have those 3 different ranges, like almost like, someone from the very beginning, someone in, intermediate, and then, expert level or whatever. And you just take it from there. So this is to like not bore people, not challenge folks, right? This is like something we developed for everyone. And again, it's to create the foundation. We're pouring almost like, think about the cement of a house. Like we're pouring down the foundation so that the rest of the house is sturdy. And so this is the blessed lifestyle, as we say. This is the foundation. It's not perfect, and that's why we're trying to tweak things, and that's why we're getting feedback off each other. That's why I'm saying, what can we add? Heck, I know you weren't here last week, but last week we were also talking about adding a multivitamin. That's not a big ask. It's a very small. You're already chugging the water, right? Throwing out a multivitamin You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's a small little addition to what we're already doing. But again, we got to start somewhere. Now we're starting to, come up with ideas to add things or whatever. There's another thing where it's like having groups. So if you know someone like me and Heck, we live next to each other, or Gabe, like, let's just say you and your sister, you guys do it together, right? Like you guys can now partner up and go for a walk together. You know what I'm saying?
True. Yes.
Because you're both on the same page. Like you guys know what you're doing. Like you're in on the thing. You know what I mean? And then Heck, like me and you, same thing. We can go jogging around, the neighborhood if we want. So it's like building that partnership. It's almost like building up the community all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually dope. Just to think about, like, to do it with somebody, do the exercise with someone and keep it moving, or even if you want to share like what you're reading or just do something, just partner up. Like you said, partner up together is always good. It always has that motivation because you're sharing it with someone else and they feedback and you give feedback on them and stuff like that.
That was the other thing. You just said it. That was the one thing that I got a brain freeze on earlier. The reading part. So actually doing this with a group of people and almost not like a book club, but everyone's reading the same book. Yeah. So that when you have these check-ins, you're now talking about, all right, so for this week, let's read chapters 1 through 3. And so you have that thing that's like, it's encouraging because right now we're all kind of separated. We're all reading all random things and you're just kind of like all loose or whatever. But if we were all reading the same book, right, you could quickly tell if someone didn't read. Right. And so you're like, well, I don't want to be the guy who didn't read. So you just, you're gonna run through it. Right. So because there's that accountability aspect. Yeah. I think if we all, and that's the thing though. So it's a whole month. So for a whole month, you could really read a book. Right. And so it doesn't have to be nothing crazy. I have little small books right here, little thin book. This one's called The Happiness Advantage. Right. How a positive brain fuels success in work and life. Perfect. It has about 200 pages, right? 50 pages a week, almost down to about 7 to 10 pages a day. Bang! You broke this down, and now you have something to talk about. And at the end of the year, you've read at least 10 to 12 books. If you maintain the thing. How many books did you read last year? Right, and it's like even that in itself is already an improvement. I know somebody might be out there saying, I read 20 books. Fantastic.
I'm still counting. Hold on, I'm still counting.
Yeah.
I took my shoes off.
Do either of you think that you created a new habit just yet? Or at least you feel like you are going to by the end of it?
I feel like I'm in the process of like.
Of course, it's only been 2 weeks, so yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely in the process. I mean, like I said, the breakfast thing was kind of already there. Like skipping, like fasting for breakfast. So it's kind of like already a habit. But again, it's a mental thing. So it always messes with me when I think about it. But when I don't think about it, I'm like, dude, I'll wake up, drink that water, and I'll go with 3 cups of coffee and I'm good till 11 o'clock. Right. Yeah. And then when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, God dang, I'm hungry. And it's only when I'm home mainly, right? Because I'm sitting at home working and I'm like, the cabinet is right there, the kitchen's right there, the stove is right there. I'm like, gotta make something to eat for my son. I'm like, dang, that smells good. And I'm like, it's tough.
There is something about like when you like, especially going to work and stuff too, it's like easy to kind of just like not think about it when you're home and everything's just there. It's just like, I can just walk over to the kitchen and just grab this and that and whatever.
Yeah.
So the one Friday or Monday, I forget what it was, I was off from work, and that was like the hardest day of everything. Because throughout the rest of the week, I'm already on a strict regimen no matter what. Yeah. So I'm just adding these things within that day. When you have a day off, or when I have a day off, my schedule's a lot looser. So I have the freedom to kind of navigate the day as I want. And when you do that based off of, it's my day off, I want to relax, I want to stay in, you start your day kind of just chill, relax, you're not trying to jump into everything. Because it's your day off and you're trying to take advantage of that rest time. Yeah. But when it's a regular work week, like, you got to it's the hustle and bustle anyway. Yeah. So just let's get going. Might as well knock these lists out, and keep it moving.
Because you're already regimented or ready to begin with. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So any last items we would like to add before we hit week 3 of the challenge?
No, yeah, I'm good.
All right. All right. So we like to wrap things up with quotes. And the first one is by Henry B. Eyring. If you are on the right path, it will always be uphill. And the second one by Martin Luther King Jr. Our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to good news, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. The challenge part 3 in this episode series, the crew is taking on a challenge of their own and sharing the journey. We cover topics that range from habit creation, making adjustments, motivation, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes by Henry B. Eyring and Martin Luther King Jr.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.